All right, let's just get right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to embark on a really deep dive into the mathematical reality behind building wealth from absolutely nothing. We're going to break down the actual mechanics of money, step by step. If you've ever felt like getting rich is just this distant, impossible dream, or maybe that you're just spinning your wheels no matter how hard you work, well, get ready. We are going to look at the hard data, completely strip away the noise, and uncover the actual science behind how money works in the real world. $1 billion. Seriously, our brains kind of short circuit trying to even picture a number that huge. Just to put it in perspective for a second, if you earned $100,000 every single year and you never spent a single dime of it, it would literally take you 10,000 years to save up $1 billion. 10,000 years. It's a number so remarkably vast that it completely shifts our perspective on what true wealth really means. It moves us far beyond just scraping by to pay the bills. To really put that staggering scale into context, Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, has a net worth roughly 117 times that $1 billion mark we just talked about. And then there's the standard path. There's us. You're probably working a job right now, maybe one you got from a degree you studied incredibly hard for. You might be staring at a really tight monthly budget, feeling the stress of everyday living expenses creeping higher and higher, all while dealing with that pesky student debt hanging above your head every single time you check your bank app. The contrast between these two realities is absolutely staggering, and frankly, experiencing that friction day in and day out, it can be incredibly frustrating. Seeing that massive, seemingly insurmountable gap naturally leads to a question that I know a lot of us have asked ourselves in quiet moments. Is wealth just a rigged game? Is it reserved only for the corrupt, the entirely ruthless, or those who simply won the birth lottery and inherited it all from their parents? You know, Hollywood has this long, persistent habit of depicting the wealthy as backstabbing tycoons or entitled heirs. It makes you angry, and over time, it creates this psychological barrier where you start to think, well, I'm just unlucky, this isn't for me. But the actual data shatters that stereotype completely. Now, what's really interesting about this is what a recent WealthX report found on the world's ultra-wealthy, meaning people with a net worth of $30 million or more. It reveals something absolutely fascinating. 68% of them are entirely self-made. Let that sink in for a second. Only 32% inherited their wealth or acquired it through other means. The overwhelming majority of the ultra-wealthy built it themselves completely from the ground up. This proves that the Hollywood inheritance myth is exactly that, a total myth. It's not some exclusive club restricted by bloodline. Let's ground this with some famous faces we all know. Warren Buffett, self-made. Howard Schultz, the guy who built Starbucks, and Oprah Winfrey were both born into actual poverty and completely rewrote their family histories. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Sarah Blakely, all self-made entrepreneurs. Reaching the absolute pinnacle of wealth is mathematically and practically possible without a trust fund backing you up. Why? Because these individuals understand a completely different equation than the one you and I were taught growing up. So what's actually holding most people back? Well, it comes down to a fundamentally flawed equation that society, and honestly the school system, drills into our heads from day one. And it's this: wealth equals the salary earned from a standard job. Past a certain point, getting a safe, respectable job becomes the sole, unquestioned purpose of your entire education. But if your goal is to generate significant financial freedom and make a lot of money in a relatively short amount of time, this equation is entirely broken. Let's break down the actual math behind why that equation fails. I call this the time trap. We all have one precious, completely finite resource we can never, ever get back: our time. In a standard job, the money you earn is directly tied to the time you burn. If you earn $20 an hour and work 40 hours a week, it will take you 24 years just to reach $1 million. And wait, remember, that is before taxes and before inflation completely eats away at its purchasing power. Practically speaking, doing it this way is impossible. You're trading away a quarter of a century of your life just for a pre-tax million. It's an exhausting treadmill. Because of that brutal mathematical reality, I need you to embrace a massive paradigm shift right now. Stop chasing money. Seriously, completely abandon your current strategy of chasing a paycheck. It sounds super counterintuitive, I know, but if you've been obsessing over how to get more dollars into your bank account by just working more hours, you've been doing it all wrong. Instead of chasing the dollar, you need to understand the fundamental rules of the capitalist game. Here is the real equation. You are paid in proportion to the perceived value you provide to the market. The market, meaning everyday consumers, you, your friends, your family, they decide your value based on what they want and what they need.
People constantly complain that professional football players are overpaid, but they make millions of dollars because the market demands it. Millions of people perceive tremendous value in watching football, buying the tickets, and proudly wearing the merchandise. The market scales the reward based directly on the value it receives.
Let's contrast two everyday roles to really hammer this home. On one side, we have the cleaner. They sweat, they work incredibly hard physically, and they provide a super necessary service. But, structurally speaking, they're easily replaced. Because it isn't difficult to learn that specific job, their perceived market value remains low. On the other side is the accountant. They might just sit comfortably behind a desk all day, but they are highly specialized. They know the tax code inside and out, and they literally save their clients thousands of dollars. Income isn't dictated by how physically hard you sweat. It is entirely dictated by your perceived value and how hard you are to replace.
So how do we level up our perceived value to the level of a millionaire or a billionaire? Well, here is the absolute core takeaway of this entire explainer. If you want money, solve problems. If you solve a problem, money will literally be thrown at you. If you solve $1 million problem, the solution makes you millions. Think about Amazon again. Jeff Bezos solved the massive, super frustrating inconveniences of driving to the store, dealing with high retail prices, and waiting weeks for mail order delivery. He solved a billion-dollar problem for consumers globally, and the market rewarded him with billions in return. It's that simple.
So, the crucial point is, here is the actionable blueprint to wealth. Step 1. Start by intently listening to the market and find a problem people genuinely hate or find incredibly inconvenient. Step 2. Create a solution to that exact problem. And step 3. Build a scalable business around it. This is exactly how you break out of that flawed time-for-money equation we talked about earlier. You shift from selling your precious time to selling a solution. Let's zero in on step 3, because scalability is where life-changing wealth is actually generated. Consider a local restaurant. It solves a problem, sure. People need to eat, right? But it is entirely constrained by the local footfall of the neighborhood. It's just not highly scalable because you can only physically seat so many people a night. Now compare that to a software business. Once you spend the time to write that code and build that piece of software, it can be scaled infinitely online. Whether one person downloads it or 1 million people download it, your production effort remains largely the absolute same, and there are literally zero shipping costs. Your solution must have the ability to reach a massive magnitude of people. But be super careful here. You don't want to accidentally build yourself a trap. A local yoga teacher might charge $100 an hour. That sounds like great money, right? But it's strictly time-bound. There are only so many hours in a day, and if you get sick, you don't get paid. You've essentially just created another job for yourself disguised as a business. But an online yoga course that runs 24/7, you create the lessons once, you upload the videos once, and it scales infinitely across the globe while you sleep. Do not chain your income to your time. To truly maximize your solution and reach that infinite scale, you have got to remove yourself as the bottleneck of your own business. You need to implement solid systems and processes to keep things running like a smooth machine. Automate where possible using technology, outsource those tedious, repetitive tasks, and honestly, most importantly, you have to remove your ego. Tasking yourself with doing absolutely everything because you think only I can do it right is a terrible idea. True wealth requires building a system that runs without your constant physical input, so hire employees who can do specific things way better than you can. Once you have that beautiful, profitable, scalable machine humming along without you, you reach the absolute endgame of wealth creation, the acquisition. This is an incredibly rewarding phase where you finally reap what you've sown after years of grinding. You essentially face a phenomenal choice. You can either continue running the business as a massive, passive wealth generator in the background of your life, or you can cash in and sell the solution entirely. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens in the real world. These cash-ins are monumental liquidations. Take Instagram, built as a brilliantly scalable photo-sharing solution, which was acquired by Facebook for $1 billion with just 13 employees at the time. Or PayPal, which solved the massive headache of online payments. It was acquired by eBay for $1.5 billion, resulting in a massive $165 million payout straight into Elon Musk's pocket. He didn't work millions of hours for that. He built a scalable solution, and eBay wrote a massive check to own it. This is the incredible financial fruition of this blueprint. But let's zoom out from the dollars and cents for a second as we near the end of our explainer, because if you really think about it, deep down, it was never actually about the paper money. Money is just a piece of paper. It's literally just a digital number resting on a banking screen. Its value is only backed up by our collective societal belief in it.
The true destination of this incredibly difficult journey, the reason you put in the grueling work, the late nights, and the stress to build a scalable solution, is freedom. The pure, unadulterated sensation of being able to do exactly what you want, whenever you want, without the constant gnawing financial anxiety of wondering how to pay rent or having to sacrifice your life's passions. You are doing this to reclaim the one single resource we can never, ever get back: time.
To wrap up our core philosophy today, remember this insight, heavily inspired by the brilliant teachings of entrepreneur MJ DeMarco. Stop chasing money, chase problems, and find the solution to those problems. And even if you are in a standard career right now and not quite ready to build your own massive company, this still absolutely applies to you. If you can actively seek out and solve more complex problems at your current place of employment, you instantly increase your market value and give yourself the leverage to command a significantly higher salary. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought as we close out today's explainer. Ask yourself honestly, are you chasing money right now, or are you chasing solutions? Are you currently stuck running on the treadmill of the time trap? And if so, how many more hours of your one precious life will you let slip away before you change the equation? The actual blueprint to wealth is sitting right in front of you. Let solving meaningful problems be the great pursuit of your life. The choice on how to move forward from here is entirely yours.